So in today's episode, we're going to talk about safety and how important it is to feel the internal safety before we can be our authentic selves, be the true you. And it was an interesting conversation. Of course, we ended up talking about IFS. When it comes to talking about internal safety, I don't know a better tool than the IFS model. I make reference to my Compassionate Results Guidebook and an exercise or two exercises that you'll find in there for actually practicing creating internal safety.
This is an extremely valuable conversation because it's about that very space where we're not as in charge as we'd like to be of our response, right? It's easy when everything's going hunky-dory to be your true self, or when all of the hubbub has calmed down, but in that space in the middle, and that's what we're talking about here.
So I hope you enjoy the episode.
Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of the True You podcast. I'm Martin Kettlehut, and I've got a new book out on leadership as relation, and I'm joined by my partner in the podcast, Bill Tierney.
Hi, everybody.
Tell them what you do.
Oh,
I write books on leadership. What do you do?
Well, I'm a writer too. I'm a trainer. I'm a coach. I'm a husband. I'm a grandpa. I'm a compassionate results coach, and I run my own company called Compassionate Results Coaching. And I work with people using the internal family systems model to help them work with their internal influences so that those influences are aligned with whatever those people want to accomplish in their lives. And oftentimes we find that they are not, which is what creates the difficulties in achieving or accomplishing anything or keeping change moving forward. So I've found that using the IFS model, my clients are able to sustain the changes that they make when we work together.
Very good, very good. Let me say a word then about the leadership that I coach and write about. It's not about like a formula for how you could be a leader. Unfortunately, I don't provide a formula, but it's about what it's like to be in a relationship that empowers other people. So that's a little bit about what to expect.
And it sounds like that's the style, and I know you well, so I know that this is true, that's the style of leadership that you coach people in.
Exactly.
Relationship-based leadership.
Right. So if somebody comes to me and says, I need to be a stronger leader, I don't like make them stronger in the sense that they're.
You don't train them to have stronger leadership skills.
I train them on how to interact with people in a way that strengthens the people that they're interacting with. And so those people walk away going, wow, what a leader. You know, and it's not because I sent the guy who came to me for coaching to the gym to get stronger, right? It's because we worked on how he interacts with people, or she interacts with people, such that those people do better in life through that interaction.
You know, I was listening this morning to the Internal Family Systems Therapy book by Richard Schwartz, 2nd edition. And because I was listening to it rather than actually reading it, I can't tell you what page to go to, but what you just now said reminded me of something that he said this morning when he was talking about the qualities and the resources of self. And one of the words he considered using when he originally penned the 8 C's that are used to identify the qualities and resources of self was the word charisma. And I'm trying to remember exactly what he said about charisma, but what I do remember is that it means what it means. Do you know what its actual meaning of charisma is? This isn't a test. I'm asking for help.
Well, I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking about the original. I was thinking about my first coach, what he said about.
Well, what did he say?
He said charisma is when people interact with you and out of it, they feel so much better about themselves. And what they say walking out is, gosh, that guy has so much charisma.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I just now looked it up, and this is very similar to what Richard Schwartz is saying about it too. Is charismatic describes someone who possesses a compelling charm that inspires devotion in others, making them influential and attractive leaders. So that's what I thought of. Whatever language you just used to describe what you do is what prompted that. So that's the way you want people to think about it. That's mission accomplished.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, what do you think? I mean, you are training people to be leaders every day.
I am. I actually don't lead with that idea. But the
Yeah.
truth is that when people use the IFS model in a way that lets go of results, outcome, control, and manipulation,
Mhm.
and simply just recognizes that by building relationship with themselves, a different kind of relationship with themselves than maybe what they've had before, they gain access to all those C's that Richard Schwartz was writing about and I've listened to this morning. And when they do, they develop the charisma, an internal charisma where their own parts now feel like uh, they're charmed. They recognize the compassion and they become more aligned with whatever as the true you that client feels is the direction to go in their lives. Their parts are much more aligned with that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then that,
I and I would say, I mean, it works both ways. In fact, like I find my inner teenager a lot more attractive now that I spend time with him,
yeah,
come to understand why he likes to watch hate-tainment in the evening. Why is it that after dinner you always want to turn on, and watch these YouTube videos of people that are doing crazy things to our country? Why do you want to see
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Anyway, I don't need to recount the whole conversation, but I've come to appreciate him. Like there's a certain charm there. I see what he's up
Mhm,
to.
mhm. Yeah, that's a really cool thing that our parts are doing what they do because they have something they're trying to accomplish, and they're
Mhm,
doing it based on
mhm.
information that they have. And often, if there's a problem, it's because the parts are operating from information that's limited or even erroneous, not even
Right.
accurate. So by
Mhm,
by um, being patient enough with ourselves to build love-based relationships, trust-based relationships with the parts of us that are misaligned with our true vision, we begin to really appreciate what's at stake for them, what they're trying to accomplish, and in the course of developing that relationship, the part then becomes open and willing to listen to what we might have to offer that would give them a different reframing or a different perspective on what it is that they're doing and why they're doing it.
mhm, mhm. Well, and one of the aspects of that, one of the most important aspects of that charisma that we can have, not only for our parts, but then also for our family and the people we work with, is that we build a safe environment for them to just be themselves, to be their true you.
Well, and there's our topic for today.
How did that happen?
Very nice. Yeah. So just before we hit record today, we were just catching up with each other, Marty and I. We both have lots of plates spinning and balls juggling in the air and different lots of moving parts. And as we often do, we'll check in with each other before we hit record, just so that we can show up as our true you, and just so those parts of us that are busy doing concerning themselves with things other than recording a podcast episode can relax, knowing that we haven't forgotten them, and that their agendas are important too, but that during this time we are here to talk about a particular topic. So once we kind of had caught up with each other, then the question was, well, what are we going to talk about today? Neither one of us had prepared anything, and we didn't have anything
Mhm,
on the schedule for what there is to talk about. And you brought
mhm,
something up that from that distilled a theme, which is, yeah, safe enough to be who you really are, to be your authentic self, to be
mhm.
the true you. Yeah.
Yes.
Would it be
Yeah.
valuable? Would it be uh, useful for you to maybe summarize what you were telling me that had me notice that thing?
Sure. I'd be happy to. I notice that people in my life, as well as just acquaintances, are not as able to be freely expressive of what is true for them right now for fear that they're going to be canceled, or for fear that they're going to just get into something too hairy that they don't want to be, or um, that they might be dead wrong. It's something that they didn't know. There's a lot of despair about this that I'm picking up just at the feeling level. Like, oh my gosh, how do we get beyond this unsafety? Um, and I'm not pointing a finger at anybody because I see it also in the groups where I coach like the CEO, and then they hire me to work with the team as well. And I see like the CEO, like somebody on the team will say something like, "Well, we should do it this way," and the boss, the CEO, who I've been coaching, says no, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's not safe." That person's not gonna, no wonder there's, this animosity. And like when we're in the coaching session together, I can make all of that workable. But there's just like that automatic response on the part of my client, who's a dear person, just doesn't mean any harm, right? But was in this reactive mode and felt, just knee-jerk reaction, had to say no. And that's a simple example from an innocent place of creating unsafety.
Right. Authoritarianism, huh? Like what I say
Right.
goes,
And
and what you say doesn't matter.
and I know that that's not, I'm sure that I do this too, right? It's not out of it. I'm not trying to say I'm the authority and you don't count, but it comes out like it sounds like that to the other
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
right? This client of mine, she is not an authoritarian by any means, but that reaction certainly did not create
Well,
safety.
I'm guessing it created the impression that she is authoritarian.
Exactly. Very, very, very likely. Yeah. And the response then that got created was, we're going to go to battle on this. I'm going to fight you.
So let's talk more about what does it mean? Why is safety needed in order to just relax into who we are, and to just authentically to be ourselves? And what difference does it make to have safety that makes it easier just to show up and be ourselves authentically?
Mhm. It seems obvious, but why would that
Well, tell
be?
me why it seems obvious.
There are so many stories, even of animals. Like, you find a stray dog and he's mean and snippy, but then once he gets to know you and how warm and that you're going to provide for him and all of this, well, he turns out to be a nice, cuddly guy.
So the dog in that story, was he being authentic when he was being growly?
Well, in the analogy, no, he wasn't. That's not who he means to be.
But that's who he was in the moment. And I love that you would bring that kind of an example, because it puts us in the animal world where I would assume that dogs, well, maybe dog owners would disagree with this, but that dogs don't run rackets. They're authentically being whoever it is that they naturally are, given the situation that they find themselves in. I'm
Mhm,
growly.
mhm.
If I'm a dog, I'm growly because I'm afraid. I'm growly because I want to give the appearance of dominance and power. Maybe, I don't know. I've never been a dog, as far as I know. So,
Right, not feeling safe.
but the moment the dog feels safe, then they take on a different aspect of their persona, of who they actually are. So
Right,
I'm
right.
thinking more in terms of, so it doesn't feel safe to be myself. So, or maybe it just doesn't feel safe to be in a space. And so if I were just to be authentic in that moment, I would probably maybe just walk away without having to take care of the person that I don't feel safe around. Like by explaining,
Uh-huh.
making up a story about why I'm walking away. Oh, I'm good. I got to go home. I left the casserole in the oven. Just simply walking away, or saying, I'm feeling really uncomfortable, and And so I'm gonna take some space right now, and walking away. So that would be a way to respond when there's fear present in an authentic way. Those are some ways to do that. Um, I'm talking more about when there's a performance put on. Like I need to show up in this particular way so that I can either prevent something from happening that I don't want to have happen, or so that I can bring about a result that I otherwise don't think I can bring about. So I need to perform rather than authentically be myself.
I see. Yes.
And if there's safety, maybe I can just ask for that. Like, let's just say, for example, someone's got themselves a nice 4-wheel drive pickup and they put lifts on it and big wheels that stick out, and they're 2 feet higher than everybody else around them on the highway. And they're not consciously aware that the reason that they're doing that is because they want something or because they're trying to avoid something. But because they're not consciously aware that that is kind of a racket that they're engaged in, investing all that money into that appearance, into that, giving that impression of who they are. If they were to look, they might see that, oh, I'm really quite scared, and I'm afraid that people are going to see me as small and indefensible, for example. So if I'm scared, there are parts of me that are going to do whatever they need to do to give the impression to the rest of the world that I'm somebody that shouldn't be messed with, that I'm well defended. Where safety opens up the possibility of actual connection. And connection is one of the experiences of authenticity, true connection.
Well, what I'm sitting with right now is that those responses are so rare.
What responses?
Gosh, maybe the reason I bought this oversized vehicle is just to show off, and I'm really scared that people don't think that I'm a big.
You're saying what's rare is to be that aware. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Or, gosh, I'm really feeling not safe here. Maybe I should just speak up and say I'm not feeling safe here. How often does that happen? I mean, it does happen, and it'd be great if it happened more, but
I'm doing it more and more, and there's a tremendous amount of freedom in it. And the way it sounds coming from me often is, what I'm learning about me and my particular nervous system is that situations like this really aren't comfortable at all. Do you mind if instead of sitting in this coffee shop with all this noise and all these people surrounding us, that could we just go for a walk for half an hour and talk while we walk? That'd be so much better for me.
Are you looking for a way to apply IFS in your everyday life? The Compassionate Results Guidebook can help. It blends IFS with coaching to help you work with your parts, make self-led choices, and live in the world authentically. You can order your copy on Amazon or learn more at CompassionateResultsGuidebook.com. Now back to the episode.
And notice how that sounds different than these people, all these loud people in this restaurant, rather than have that response of being irritated with the people around me because they are contributing to the noise in the room just as I am, rather than making it somebody else's problem and getting angry about it and blaming others for it. Just recognize what's happening inside for me. I don't feel regulated. I don't feel safe. I feel threatened. I'm having some anxiety here. And so what anxiety, this is something I've been talking about lately too. It seems like anxiety is like an alarm that's trying to get my attention and tell me that something needs to be adjusted. Something needs to happen. And if we stay with the same metaphor that I just used of the coffee shop that's too noisy, rather than storming out or never going there again or whatever, just noticing that in this moment, my nervous system is dysregulated and I need to have something change so I can come back into regulation, so I can come back into self-awareness and come back into the best version of myself that I can be.
Right. Now, I guess the friction, I guess, that I'm feeling, and I can tell you actual stories of my experience. Right in that moment when I don't feel regulated, to come back with a very regulated response, to moderate the situation, that's when it's most challenging. And so I'm kind of just asking for you to help us, give us a leg up
Oh
here.
yeah, boy, what a great point. And you're right, it absolutely is. If it goes that far, that another example of this is road rage. Having somebody
Yeah.
cut you off on the road,
Yes.
my parts immediately want to really, really get angry at somebody that scares me.
Mhm.
Even when nothing really happens, nothing bad happened, but somebody cuts me off in
Yeah.
traffic. First
Yeah.
thing I feel, and I don't hardly even notice this, is fear. But the thing I
Yeah.
notice is just this tsunami wave of anger that comes on and wants to slam on the gas and tailgate the guy that just cut me off and honk on the horn and flash my lights. And if I can catch him, then maybe I'll figure out what to do then. That's too late. All of that is way too late to be
Yeah.
able to pause. Something
Mhm.
happened even long before somebody cut me off. If I'm in traffic,
Yeah.
let's just say, the speed limit around here is 70. No, it isn't. It's it's 60 in town. Then it becomes 70 just before my exit. And so I push it, on days that I got to get somewhere, which I'm a little embarrassed to admit it are most days. I feel like I got to get somewhere. 60 is not fast enough. So I push it to the point where I think I won't get a speeding ticket, but I'll get there faster. And now I'm 69 miles an hour.
Mhm.
And everybody else is cruising along at 69 miles an hour too. But then there's this guy that thinks that 69 is too slow. So, he brushes by me, or she does, and then takes my lane right in front of me and makes sure that I don't know if they're trying to make sure, but I get scared about it. It's long before
Mhm.
that thing happens. I'm recognizing, wow, I'm breaking the speed limit. I'm putting myself at risk of getting a speeding ticket. I could actually cause an accident. I wonder what's going on inside that I feel like it's so important that I get there 30 seconds faster than if I just went the speed limit or closer to it. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
that's the time to find out. That's the time to really
Yeah.
check in.
So check in.
Yes.
That's the first piece. Rather than react, check in. Why do I want to react?
Right.
What is going on inside me that I want to smash somebody's car? That's not
Right.
me. What's going
Well,
on
and
here?
like we we're saying here, that's a little too late. Hopefully, at some point, I can remind myself, oh man, yeah, no, I don't want to smash anybody's car, and I don't want to. I don't want to put myself or another person in jeopardy here, so I'm going to back off. And I'm able to do that even if it gets that far, but it's hard to. It's really hard to, because the part of me that wants whatever it is, revenge or power or control, or I'm going to show them, is in control, has completely flooded me, blended me with its response.
Mhm.
So yeah, checking in earlier. What's going on with my nervous system? What's happening inside right now? What's happening with my breath? What's happening with my nervous system? What's happening with my thinking? And can I just, this is a kind of, as we spoke about last week, and when we talked about meditation, this is a form of meditation that can happen while I'm driving down the highway at 63 miles an hour. Right.
Yeah. So I didn't realize when I moved into a condo that in a small building, there are only 6 residential units and 3 commercial units in this building. So it's not like a 600 person, complex, that I would have a crucial role in every decision about this building. Like, we own this building together. And, if the water main on the north side is leaking, we all have to decide what to do about that and how it's going to get paid for, etc. And I used to go to those meetings, and because I don't know how to maintain a building, I was scared. I felt unsafe. And so I would lash out. I would, or I would, say, knee jerk things, or, I would get upset at people for their behavior really easily the first couple of years. And I knew I didn't like it. I knew this isn't me. And I started to, look at, like, why am I doing this? I don't like my behavior in these meetings. And so then I showed up at the next meeting, and I was like much more myself, much more accommodating and compassionate and patient. And afterwards, the woman who was the president at that time, she said, well, you are much more regulated today. That was her exact word. And it happened last week. We had a meeting. And while I was talking, one of the people on the Zoom call in one of the boxes stepped away, and I could hear her talking loudly with somebody else in that room, and it was still coming through. I couldn't hear myself. So when she came back, I said something nasty about, "Rah, rah, rah, don't do that," or, that was very disturbing, or you're not very considerate. I don't remember my exact words. And I was like, oh, there's that thing again. There I am doing it again. Like I was being threatened by her, and I had to stop in the moment and check in, like, what is going on with me?
Yeah. That's great that you gave those couple of examples of how your internal system, your parts, responded to the state of your nervous system. In both cases, you don't know how to maintain a building, so you're feeling like you don't have enough information. You're scared. You're feeling scared, and but you respond with a show of strength, criticism, anger,
right?
And then in the situation where you're actually the one that's conducting the meeting, someone forgets to mute themselves before they walk away. I'm guessing your nervous system must have been experiencing some fear before they walked away, a fear that you're not going to do it right, or fear that the meeting's not going to go well, or fear that whatever, how people are going to respond. Check it out. Is that true for you?
Yeah, it was fear that if I don't do this right, we are going to have to come up with $13,000 to fix that water main.
So that wasn't just a hypothetical. That was a real thing. There's actually a water main that needed to be addressed. Yeah. So there was fear around that. And so she walks away. She leaves herself unmuted, has a conversation that disturbs the meeting, and you're feeling both powerless. I can't get her to mute when she's away from the computer, and afraid. Afraid was already there, but maybe you weren't consciously aware of it. And then there's the snappiness comes back because, again, a show of power, criticizing somebody, being angry, yeah. So that's now interestingly too. This might be back to the dog barking. You felt scared. You snapped at the woman on Zoom. The dog felt scared, so snapped or barked at the person. So what if it's just a biological response, but as human beings, we have the capacity to check ourselves on that, and just to notice and to respond in a different way. And that other way could be several other things, which in the IFS model would be referred to responding in a self-led way, responding in a way that is supported by the resources of our true inner selves.
So, and that's why checking in with your nervous system works too, because you are from self looking at what's going on inside my mind and my body.
Right.
So you're accessing something other than the automatic reactions that mind and body have.
Yeah. A question could be framed this way for when I check in. It could be, okay, who's in there running the show? And who is it that they are being right now, that they're running the show right now? And they, with IFS, refers to what part of me is at the control panel. IFS doesn't use the control panel. The movie Inside Out does, but I love the metaphor. Who's at the control panel operating my emotions and my thoughts, my impulses and my reactions to what's happening out there? And who is it that they're being? Are they being self-led? Are they viewing what's happening in my life through a lens that has compassion and curiosity and connection and clarity and courage? Or is the part that's influencing me to react to the life that I'm experiencing right now scared, angry, defending, manipulating, but in some way trying to be in control? Right.
Yeah.
So by checking in that way, now I can pause. And you have the Viktor Frankl quote memorized around that space that the pause creates?
No.
I rarely get it right, so I'm going to look it up real quick. But there's between stimulus and response. Some of our listeners might know exactly what I'm about to say. Between stimulus and response is a space, and in that space we have the ability to choose, something like that. I'm not finding it right away, but that's the idea. If we can create a space to pause in, we can get choice back. We don't have choice as long as scared, angry, hurtful, hurt, shaming parts of us are in control.
So for there to be a safe space, let's say at Thanksgiving to discuss politics with your
When is
relatives.
that ever going to be safe? That's not safe.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's what I'm saying. So somebody in the room has to keep opening that space between stimulus and response and choosing.
Well,
right?
each of us are responsible for that, and hopefully somebody in the room does that. And to that degree, we're back to something we said even before we got onto our topic here, and that is that a person is going to have some charisma. They're going to have influence in that conversation. Here's the quote exactly. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So back to our topic. The topic is the safety to be our true, authentic selves. And when we're talking about safety, the opposite of that might be threat or danger. And even though in the lives that we're living, if we look around and say, am I safe? Yeah, I've got a roof over my head. The furnace works. I can pay the bills. Nobody's attacking me. And yet my nervous system can be in a state of vigilance, being guard, feeling scared, feeling worried. And that's what there is to notice. To notice that there's a misalignment between reality, which is in reality, it appears that I'm safe, and how my nervous system is responding to what apparently is safe, yet something's happening inside that indicates that I'm not.
Yeah. So as you're saying that, what I can count on for myself, I mean, I will practice at all of that, but what I can count on right away is that I know when I'm not responding in a way that my true self is happy with. When I start being reactive, snippy, unkind, loud, anything like that, I know this is not me. And so I know I might, like you said, need to ask to leave the situation or change something so that I feel safe, or I might go deeper and be able to get in touch with what got triggered, and manage that so that they get back in the conversation. But I think at my level of development, it's more than likely going to be like, whoa, I'm gonna be I need to like bow out for a moment. I need to just go and figure this out or do something else for a while. And so I think there's depending on the level of triggeredness. Like in the HOA meeting, I was able to go whoa and come back right there. But there are times when the stimulus is so disturbing that I'm going to have to put a lot of room between the response and that stimulus in order to get to choice.
I'm thinking of the chapter in the Compassionate Results Guidebook. It's chapter 5, Pause to Unblend. And that word unblend is a term that I don't know that I'd ever heard before. I was trained in the IFS model. Blend, I've heard, but unblend is a word that means that we recognize that a part has blended with us, that's having an undue influence, or an influence that we really would rather not be having. And there are techniques to unblend. And one of the first techniques is to notice that there's a part of us that's influencing us in that particular way. So it might sound like, and even in my own thinking and possibly in my speaking, I'm noticing instead of I'm really mad right now. I'm really angry. All of Bill Tierney is really angry right now is what that means. But if I say, I'm noticing that there's a part of me that's really angry and it's blended with me right now. And so I'm angry too. There's a part of me that's blended with me that's feeling angry. And so I'm feeling its anger. That begins to unblend from the part that has the anger and give me just enough of a space between the influence that's coming from that part and my ability to witness and observe that influence. And now I've got a little bit of choice. Now, what do I want to do with that? Do I want to just give myself to that anger? Do I just want to let this part run the show? Or would I rather, who do I want to be in this moment?
Right.
I want to be understanding. I want to speak from a place of power, but not with threatening anger, and certainly not with hurtful anger. So that's who I want to be. I want to speak the truth. I want to be authentically myself. And I don't want this anger to take over and run the show. So there's a couple of exercises in that chapter. One of them is called pausing practice. This is a pausing practice, and it's got 10 steps to it. It's a journaling exercise. And the more you do it, the more you train your internal system to know what to do, when to pause, and what to do when you pause.
Okay.
And then there's another exercise in there called practice unblending. It's just a different exercise for the same thing. So when I pause, if I need to unblend, what do I do? So those are in chapter 5 of the Compassionate Results and Guidebook. I'm not here to sell the book, but if you want to buy one, you can get that on Amazon.
That's
and
great.
It'll give you an opportunity to start practicing facilitating internal safety so you can be your true authentic self.
And facilitate external
Exactly.
safety.
You can't do it, and you cannot be a peacemaker if you're not feeling peaceful inside yourself.
That's right. That's
Marty,
right.
we need to get to wrap up. My men's group is waiting for me 14 minutes from now. So any last comments you'd like to make before we end?
If you're like me, it might take a moment to regulate, to get in that space between stimulus and response, and to reach for your workbook. And so, I think a beginning step is just to give yourself time, go a little slower, count to 10 before you respond, or say, I'm going to need to sleep on this and come back tomorrow and respond to it. That's just, I'm saying that the work that Bill is pointing out that we need to do in between stimulus and response might take you a little space, a little time. And so, give that to yourself.
You might have to practice it. So
You will. You almost certainly
practice
will.
it based on something that's happened in the past, so that when it begins to happen in the present, you'll know what to do.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Until next week. We appreciate who you are, that you would be listening to this podcast, and want to acknowledge all those parts of you that yearn for the experience of the true you.
If you like this episode, click like, share it with others, and be sure to subscribe. Listen again next week for the newest episode.
Check show notes for a transcript and a link to resources, including a link to let us know if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for listening and going on this journey with us back to the true you.